How's it going, everybody? I'm Jeff Slakey, and I'm happy to be sitting down with 35th District Representative Dan Griffey. Dan, how you doing?
I'm well. This is bringing back old memories,
I
man.
like
I
it.
think this is good.
I like it. It's good to see you,
Nice seeing
and
you.
we are ramping up these conversations again. And I wanted to get you sit down for a few minutes to talk about how you've been over the summer. I know you've been out canvassing the 35th, talking with the great constituents here. And what are some of the things that you've seen over this past summer here in the 35th?
Well, I mean, it runs the gamut, right? It goes from exceptionally exciting, and I want to do it, to bring tear to your eyes, right? So, being a state representative, that is kind of our lot in life. Let's talk about the negative, and we'll finish with the positive. Fentanyl is at a crisis level everywhere in Washington State, and Mason County is not off limits. I don't think the majority party allowed us to do enough, and I think you know me well enough to where I don't keep my mouth shut. So we're working really hard. I partnered with a member of the majority party, Mari Levitt, to make illegal possession, manufacture of the pill presses that can be used to clone fentanyl tablets into what looks like pharmaceutical grade FDA assured quality and purity drugs. There's no reason for somebody to own such an apparatus. So we wanted to give law enforcement the tools to go after the people that, fentanyl is a kind of drug that with the first time use can kill you, right? And it's all too often getting in the hands of our children. It was the least we can do. I am looking to partner with Representative Mari Levitt again this year to stiffen penalties for distribution, stiffen penalties for possession of those narcotic drugs, the fentanyl especially. So we need to do something, and we need to do something right now. The amount of children, I think that's the thing we all got to take back. The amount of children that are getting into this or having this distributed to them is just alarming. We move on to retail theft. Retail theft in Washington State is about $3.5 billion a year walk off the shelves. We're in the state, and everybody knows it. And I don't have to tell them again, and they've heard it. Inflation is a big deal. It is totally crippling certain populations' ability, or Washingtonians' ability, to buy goods and services and to thrive in their life. So they're struggling. With $3.5 billion walking off the shelves and the other inflationary pressures, we have more inflation. This inflation, however, is something that a Washington State legislator can do something about. So I am once again trying to change the law that changes when the person actually commits the crime of theft. And that is adding the element of concealment. Yes, Jeff, you and I have talked about this for 6 years.
Yeah, I know we have.
There is a prejudice by some in Olympia that said that it would be used in racial profiling exercises, and I absolutely disbelieve that. I reject that idea, and so once again, I'm going to be pushing for us to employ resources early on when the theft happens. That way, the retailers can recover their property, or maybe they could recover a sale where they could even guilt the person and do, would you like to pay for that? So crime, I guess the drug issue is crime, but it's two different types of crime, right?
Let's talk about the fentanyl again for a second. I was doing some reading the other day, and I saw a report, and I'm sure I'm going to get the exact numbers, but it was something where they cotton swabbed 100 buses or something like that. And 50% of the buses roughly had some sort of fentanyl. They were able to find it on there.
Yeah.
And 100% of the buses had some sort of methamphetamine.
Yes.
That they were able to swab and find. And when it comes to these drugs getting across the borders or into our country, I mean, how does that, what is your understanding on how that even happens? And when it gets to the pill press scenarios that you were talking about, how many people are out there in the 35th that are creating or distributing this stuff?
Well, I mean, we can go back to a big headline, Russian influence mob ties Mason County, giant fentanyl bust, production ring right here in Mason County. So we're not immune.
Yeah.
What they do is they come to our beautiful area that has a lot of places to hide. That's what we love about it, is we love our, ability to stretch our legs. They come here, it's easy. So fentanyl is distributed in a powder form, and it's easy to put in sealed containers and transport. So and it's so potent that small amounts of it can garner large amounts of money. And with these pill presses that they're buying or manufacturing, they can easily make 1,000 to 2,000 tablets an hour, sell those tablets for $5 to $10 a piece. So relatively cheap, but the high reward to the addict is huge, right? So it is very alarming. It did come to Mason County, and I reject the fact that we can't do any more about it. I mean, we have to do way more about it. And some of the pushback is a lot, and the majority party are worried about the person who has substance abuse disorder, it being a mental illness, right? And I agree, and that if we have a lot of laws that catch the people who are dealing with the mental illness, they get caught up in the legal system, and then they can't turn their lives around. They find themselves spiraling out of control. So we're working on that, right? I mean, what we're trying to do is say we want to hold you accountable. We want to keep those kind of drugs that will kill you and your family illegal, and we want to get you into treatment. And we want you to be better. And if you get into treatment, if you kind of comply with all of those requirements, we want to say, well, yeah, now your record can be washed clean, right? You did what society asked of you. You got better. We want you to go live a full and productive life. Connecting all those dots it takes a long time to do, but we have to identify how real and how big the problem is. We have to accept how big and how real it is. And so I talk about fentanyl every time I get a chance, because I want parents to understand, this is, I'm an 80s kid, and it would talk, Nancy Reagan, talk to your kids about drugs. Yeah, talk to your kids about drugs. The first time they take one of these fentanyl tablets could be the last time you see your child.
When it comes to punishments for these types of crimes and other crimes out there, do you get the sense that there's better or less recidivism or less opportunities, or people wanting to commit the crimes less if there's mandatory sentences, whether or not they're long or short, but it's, if you do this, no matter what, you're going to get something, or if there's the idea of a potentially life in prison, a sentence there, but it could be changed based on the judges, what the judges decide to do there. Is there a way to use jailing as a deterrent for those types of minimums, or how does that work? Because it seems to me, they know that there's no room in the jails here, especially in Mason County. So if a crime is committed,
working on that.
I know you're working.
We got $1.5 million. Okay.
We'll work. Well, I can't wait for that conversation then. But you know what I'm trying to say is, if someone looking to commit a crime goes, well, the sentence range is 20 to 30 years, or there's, no matter what, there's a minimum. Something's going to happen if I get caught doing this.
Well, Jeff, I agree with the majority party on one issue here. The way we incarcerated people in the past didn't work. Our recidivism rate kind of stayed similar, with some caveats, right? I mean, if you availed yourself of correctional industry services and participation, and got a certification before you were released from your incarceration, those people do a lot better. I mean, it makes total financial sense. So we can do a lot better at crime and punishment. What we can't do, because it goes totally contrary to the human animal's development, we can't let the human animal just get away with anything it wants to, right? The human animal, if you allow them to just get away with things, and you activate the reward centers too aggressively, they're going to learn a behavior. And right now, I think we're going to learn behavior set. The crime that I talked about earlier, $3.5 billion walking off the shelves annually, it is a predictor of what we're doing wrong, I believe. So there has to be strong accountability for what a human does. And a human that's doing something that injures other humans, if they don't get proverbially slapped upside the head to know that that's not going to feel good the next time, they will do it the next time and the next time and the next time. So understanding human psychology, sociology, and physiology, if you will, I think helps us re-envision what the sanctions for those that injure society with crime in the future, what we can do about it. So I think we can do a lot better than we're doing. People need to be held accountable. I mean, we've had 2 cases recently in the 35th. One tragically where somebody shot an individual, admittedly so, several times, and was released on $5,000 bond with a $500. That only took a $500 cash contribution from the individual. Well, the horrible thing is that sped the justice system up, I believe, too fast, which it doesn't. It is too cumbersome to be that fast. Let her out too quick. Obviously mentally ill, and ended up killing herself. So, one, I believe that person would be and has proven to be a danger to society, and must have that taken into account when the judge is setting bail. But the other thing is, obviously, the individual is mentally ill, and tragically, that person lost their life. So we had 2 major failures there. We also had somebody down in the 35th district in Thurston County steal a car, drive over 130 miles an hour on back roads, and then back on the I-5. Ended up ending better than they do sometimes. Law enforcement did get apprehend them. That individual was released with no bail. I think society has the right, as a whole, to expect some assurances from people that injure society. And bail reform is something we need to do, but incarceration reform is something we need to do. I believe through the intake psychological profile, offender scores, all of that, we can put people in different paths. There could be the long-term path where you're going to stay away for a long time, where society's identified that crime is too bad, and we want you to be isolated from society. Or those that society's like, I don't like that you did it, but, it doesn't scare me that much. So we are going to have to, I think, do something different with crime and punishment. But what we really have to do right now is we have got to get serious and hold people that injure society accountable right now. And then we can grow the system that I envision, and many others in Olympia envision, together. I don't know if that answered all of your questions.
I think so. Yeah, I heard all the answers in there, Dan. Again, 35th District Representative Dan Griffey. This is going to be a short session, this upcoming session, but kind of a unique one, because at the conclusion of this, it'll be a wide open governor's race for the first time in a long time.
We're going to get a new governor.
Oh my gosh.
It's exciting.
It'll be exciting to see what happens here through the primary process. Many on both sides of the aisle have started to put their feelers out there. How do you think that will impact the way the session goes this year?
Well, I believe the majority party is going to want to get out of session quickly.
Okay.
So special session probably won't happen.
Okay, because they got to get on the road.
I've learned that in the last 10 years, because you got to start actually trying to earn your job back. I am seeing something that I haven't seen in my last 10 years, because, we've had one governor that was stable as the governor, as the chief executive for a long time. I'm seeing almost arguments in agencies, right? So, Representative Couture and I are working really hard on less restrictive alternative releases for sexually violent predators, right? And so we've had some meetings, and in the past, the agencies would say a lot of things about us in emails that weren't too kind and maybe worrisome. And now we're getting phone calls from the agency, from people within the agency that said, you guys are probably more right than you're wrong on how you want to handle this. I think what you're seeing is, and it's kind of weird, but at the top of agency level decision making, they know there's going to be a new sheriff in town, and they're trying to shine.
Sure.
And so it's kind of funny to see. So I think there's going to be maybe a little more agency participation in some of the decisions. There's agency leads that are, they're kind of ambitious, and they're like, hey, maybe I can direct this agency soon. So that's different and unique. But in all short sessions, we're still going to deal with supplemental transportation budget. We're going to work on a supplemental operating budget. Housing is going to be a huge topic. And I believe, we missed the boat last year on doing some more things that could be, that could stabilize our housing situation. But the short session is fast. So
Right.
the best thing people need to know or need to understand, or the takeaway from this, is if you need help and you want me to work on or pursue legislation, we have to have it now, right? We have to have it wire tight. We only got like a week and a half or so to get it dropped, and then, or it won't get scheduled for a hearing. So the short session is just what it sounds like: lightning fast. Way too fast.
Way too fast. Let's talk about the 35th a little bit. There's a lot of opportunities to grow the 35th here this session and in the future sessions. I'm looking at different ways for shellfish, and there's conversations here in our bays about increased shellfish harvesting and work there. Looking out now as we've been traveling up Highway 101 more to Hoodsport, there's some great opportunities there for sewers and different things there. What are some of the things that you guys are hoping to convince the other districts around that the 35th needs this and it benefits the whole state?
Well, I mean, for my entire 10 years of service, I'm like a broken record. I've been one of those, like Kevin Costner's Field of Dreams: if we build it, they will come. If we build the right economic structure, I believe we are poised and ready for just about any type of development. We have a 4-lane highway that leads to a national airport, that leads to a very large industrial park, which is closely adjacent to now a world-renowned racetrack. We have one of the most beautiful deep canal fjords in the continental United States. It kind of matches Norway, right? So we have a shellfish industry that is top notch, and we're talking millions of dollars of economic activity. We also sequester more carbon than 90% of the counties in the state with our logging activities and our dear partners there. We have worked on water and making sure that we had water availability in my last 10 years. We have water now. We have some more water updates. Looks like we're a little shy of power in a couple places, but we're working with our PUD partners on that. I think the sky's the limit for this place. I think we could have commercial activities. We could have heavy industrial assembly activities. I think we can have small research facilities that wanted a small, place to where we can kind of be alone and really work out the mathematical equation that's going to solve the next big issue that society has. We have a lot to offer, I think, and we have a lot of people in office who are ready to expose the world to our greatness. We don't want to expose it too much because we don't want too much here.
They
right?
can come and work here for a little bit, recreate here, and then head home,
go
right?
somewhere else. No, there's a lot. Tourism is, with the tracing the fjord, and you and Rachel Hansen's activities, drawing people here. We've seen a direct result of the work that you have both done, where you're seeing the sales tax revenue go up and up and up from tourist activities. And I think Rachel was saying we're now at $1 million that we're generating, and we can then reinvest that and in our great county and the great district. In Thurston County, we talk about 35. Mesa County happens to be my home, so I talk about it first usually. But in Thurston County, there's a lot going on, right? the Thurston County residents are kind of crippled by the Environmental Protection Agency's interpretation of the pocket gopher issue. We're trying to get that straight, and the draconian requirements that Thurston County has placed on all their residents. We're trying to help them out and find a regulatory way around, if you will, or a regulatory way through. It's taken a lot longer than I'd like to, but I think we'll garner some benefits from that. The residents didn't want a international airport.
No, they didn't.
And I found it laughable that a commission that we established in Washington State would establish a sighting zone that would have to drain like 5 lakes, totally destroy the environment. In an area that they can't even build a shed because they might upset a pocket gopher.
Sure.
I find those type of things to be maddening as a legislator, and I do my best to just kind of identify that to the person. Do you hear what I'm saying? I mean, I want to say it out loud to you, and they're like, yeah, that does sound pretty dumb.
Right, kind of the different ways. If the government's able to do this, but John Q. Public's not able to, how does that square up?
I won't let any legislation or any policy I work on fail that test, right? I mean, if we're going to make you do it, I did it. I was a Boy Scout in the fire department. We first started doing our commercial fire inspections to rate businesses' ability to mitigate fire and emergencies like that. If we required it and it wasn't in one of our fire stations, I went to the chief and says, until you fix this for us, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
And, they quickly fixed it, right? But I think it is incumbent on the government to not be above; they need to be below, right? So I envision the government as behind and giving gentle push forward a free society, right? Instead of being in front and oppressing. And to me, government feels oppressive, right? And I'm in government, so I try really hard to make that not the case for my constituents anyway. Up in Kitsap County, they're dealing with, and I think they are tackling housing. They're tackling DD community, the disabled community, in a better light, in a better way. And when you see these successes that they are having up there, why can't we just adopt it, right? We don't need to reinvent the wheel. So I'm excited about a lot of that. But they are dealing with same problems, heroin and fentanyl, methamphetamine. We have got to change the narrative all over the district, but each and every county that I represent has very unique and very intriguing differences that just make me love them. But a similarity that if you go down to Rochester and then you drive right up to Seebeck, Silverdale, you'll be like, it's familiar.
Yeah.
So not only do I have a very diverse district that I represent that I'm very happy to, I feel like I've been a resident of it my whole 52 years, and I really feel akin and accustomed to it. While they might be different, they're a lot alike, and it is neat for a legislator who really cares.
It's amazing. We've been talking about these for 10 years now.
I know, isn't it crazy?
Isn't that something?
But
is there something that you thought that you're looking at now and you're going 10 years ago, it either wasn't an issue, you even was on your radar, or you can't believe you're still dealing with it 10 years later?
Well, one issue is the Highway 3 Freight Corridor, formerly known as the Belfair Bypass, right? So one of the first questions you ever asked me, Jeff, was, what are we going to do about that road?
What's that Belfair Bypass at?
And I'm like, well, I read in the newspaper it's going to get built, right?
2 years from now.
Yeah, so, that is one that answers both of those questions. So I believe with the effort that both, Senator McEwen, Representative Couture, and myself, we lived and breathed. Like, we want that road, and we did a lot of work to get it to where it's at. So where it's at, it's at the final phase of its environmental impact. That's all done. Now they have to go in November to community outreach and community input. And then the permit can be issued in February, and we can start buying land.
Well, hopefully the community's for it.
Well, well, the
By
community
now.
I told you the other thing that really bothered me last time. The last time it wasn't developed and built was because the community was up in arms about, well, now we're going to lose the soul of Belfair. Right now they don't care about that because they're like, there isn't any soul in Belfair.
No.
Nobody will stop because
can't
for
get-
2 hours, if you stop and go buy groceries,
You're
you are not
stuck.
getting back on the road.
You're stuck. Yeah, that's it. Oh my gosh. Well, good. That answered both of those at the same one.
Well, and there's many others. Like there's a lot of accomplishments, but there's still a lot of work to do, right? I mean, it never ends. The human condition keeps going forward, and the human condition always needs nurturing. So there's always a job for a legislator willing
That's
to work.
it. And we got a hardworking one here in the 35th District Representative Dan Griffey spending some time with me today. Nice catch up here as we get ready for a short session. Good to see you, bud.
Nice seeing you.